Today's training, it is all about the buyer's consultation. Buyer's consultation, I think for 2021, it's important that even if you're an experienced agent and you feel like you have a buyer's consultation regiment down, I think it's important that you add a few things to your buyer's consultation this year just because of how tough the market is for buyers. But I'm going to cover kind of the basics, and then we can talk about things that you should also add in there for 2021 because of how crazy the market is. So let me, right now you can kind of see my screen here that has this 10-step buyer process. The 10-step buyer process, this comes from Ninja Selling. If you've never taken Ninja Selling, Ninja Selling is the training seminar that we have on April 13th. It's a 4-day training seminar. It's all about mindset, strategy, marketing ideas, negotiation tactics, communication, communication tips, let's just say. And it covers all about running your business, working with sellers, and working with buyers. This 10-step buyer process is kind of like a little guide on how you should set up your buyer conversations and your buyer relationships that you are you're getting those leads and you're cultivating those relationships, turning them into buyer clients, and then how you need to execute with those buyer clients. So this just kind of starts from the start of meeting them. So just like with the listing consultation, the seller pre-listing interview that we talked about last week, the step one is just greeting them and getting to know them. So, asking them the personal rapport building questions like those Ford, family, occupation, recreation, dream questions. And then also, you do want to kind of give them an, heads up on, hey, I just need to ask you some questions and we're going to go over some things. Do you have some time to just kind of go over it? So that's what you would want to do, whether it's over the phone or in person, either establish that you do have time right then and there to go through a consultation, or do we need to set up a different time to do this? I really think that this is something that you should be doing over Zoom, FaceTime, or in person, ideally. Ideally, in person is the best. This is an opportunity for you to get them out of the house, I think, which is important these days. So that way they're not distracted, get them away from their desk if they're at work or working from home. So take them to a coffee shop, take them to a restaurant, or bring them into the office. Making sure that you have their attention is important. So I think doing it in person at a separate location is best. You need to have some sort of file or folder put together for them. For your file, I have a few things that I'll include here as far as cheat sheets for you keeping track of the things they tell you, kind of like a buyer questionnaire type thing. And then also for the folder of content you give them, I've got some things that I'll go through here. But if you are, for your file, a sample of a buyer questionnaire form, that we have on SharePoint is something like this. So, it's kind of like the pre-listing interview. You're just asking them the questions about, their personal information, house style they're looking for, area, price point, that kind of thing. Talking about, are they going to be doing cash or using a mortgage, getting information on the lender, and then their current situation. Do they own right now, or are they renting right now? This is important, especially in 2021, because as we've talked about in sales meeting and in previous training sessions, the huge hurdle you're going to have to overcome with people who own a home and are thinking about buying is, how do they pull both of those off at the same time? So you need to really find out, do they own a home? And also, if they don't own a home and they're renting, you want to know that information on, you know, is there an expiration date? Do they have, you know, penalties for breaking their lease early? Aren't they on month to month? If there is an expiration date, do they know for sure that there's a new tenant coming in and they can't get that landlord to, you know, extend that lease or give them a month-to-month option after the expiration of the current lease? All those things are going to be important for you to find out, so that way you can give them the best advice on the process of them buying a home. Use a cheat sheet like this. This one is in SharePoint. And I can put a bunch of this stuff together in a PDF to send out afterwards via email, so that way you have it all. But you definitely want to have a cheat sheet like this in there, so that way you can take notes and save it. All right. So this kind of step 3 is, you know, asking those questions about where you're living now, how long you own, what about it. But also further down in these 5 key foundational buyer questions, you want to find out about their experience last time when they purchased a home, if that is something that they're in right now, that they currently live in a home that they own. Kind of like the pre-listing interview, like, what did you love about your house? What are the details you like about your house? You also want to find out the same thing, because that might help you with understanding their psychology, their priorities, their motivations for buying this next house. Also finding out if they own a home currently will help you with understanding their experience with the real estate process. Just like in the pre-listing interview, you want to find out, you know, have they ever sold a home before? So that way you can educate them on how the home sale process has changed since then. Again, you want to establish control, you want to establish trust, you want to point out, you know, all the reasons why they need to rely on your expertise, because things are always changing, and they certainly have changed since the last time they've been in a transaction. It's the same thing on the, you know, buyer questionnaire here. You want to ask them those questions, so that way they are understanding that things have changed and things have evolved, and they need to rely on your opinion and your guidance. This number 5 here, familiar with how real estate works, or how the real estate sales purchasing process works in 2021. This is the point where you are, you know, going to educate them, or take note of your need to educate them on how things have changed in 2021. After I sent out the reminder email about 10, 15 minutes ago, whatever that was, Lindsay Bone from our Jefferson County office shared this image with me that I think I saw this on social media yesterday too. So yeah, every buyer, I just don't want to get in a bidding war. Every agent, well, tough shit. I had a conversation last night with a friend of mine from high school who last year was thinking about buying a home, but then the pandemic started, and he and his wife, their job situation kind of got turned upside down. So last year they couldn't do it. But last year they were like, we were just a little, you know, unsure of the, you know, competition. And well, anyways, this year they need to buy a home because his wife is now pregnant, and they have to find somewhere else to go. And so like he like nervously asked me last night, so how is it like compared to last year? And I was like, oof, you were nervous about buying a home and competing last year. It's going to be even worse. But now you got a kid on the way, so you don't have an option. You got to buy a home. So this is, you know, you need to educate people that there are certain things that they're just going to have to do. So asking those questions about how familiar they are about the market, that will provide you that opportunity, that window of opportunity to get their attention and get them to listen on how competitive things are. All right, buyer packet and agency disclosure. So this is whether you do this before you start talking about current market conditions or you do it after, you do need to have a buyer packet put together with your agency information and a copy of the contract. So What can you include in that buyer packet? Obviously, copy of the contract. And I'm not going to go through the contract in detail right now, again, because I don't want this training session to drag on forever. But you do, in your buyer's consultation, you do need to go through the contract. I think it's really important to go through the contract because in today's competitive market, 2021, when they find that house and you find out from the listing agent that the sellers, they're going to respond to all offers on Sunday night, and you don't have time to, get them to work out their capabilities and flexibilities with their loan qualification and what are they willing to do on waiving inspections or the appraisal contingency or any of that stuff. That's not the time to then be educating them about how the contract works and how the contract reads. I think when you're educating buyers about the buying process and you're talking about current market conditions and you're talking about, hey, we may have to, waive all or some portion of your inspection contingencies. We may have to consider waiving the appraisal contingency, or we may need to consider XYZ. That's your opportunity to break out the contract and then explain to them how all of these paragraphs work, how all these timelines work. You've got their attention. You're talking about how this is going to impact them. That's a great time to talk about the contract. Some people, I've done it myself, and I've seen it in my buyer's consultations in the past. When you don't have really anything juicy or pertinent to their particular situation as a buyer, and you're trying to just go through all the contract, that's when you get into that whole, like, it's over their head, their eyes are glazed over, they're just really confused and kind of like drifting off into space and not paying attention as much. So when you have market conditions and you're talking about all the things they may have to do on their offers when they're writing contracts, you've got their attention. And so that's a great time for them to actually listen and understand and be engaged in the conversation about how the contract works. So anyways, you need to go through the contract, whether it's before you talk about the buyer market conditions or after. You need to have the conversation about how the contract works. Also, aside from the contract, include your buyer's agency agreement. Explain how that works. You need to include the Missouri broker disclosure form. You need to talk about disclosure of business relationships and basically the wire security form, the what's it called? I can't remember what the abbreviation we've thrown at it, but the IT and wire fraud form. I'm a company employee. I should know exactly what this form is titled, but I'm drawing a blank. You should also, here it is, electronic transfer and wire funds form. There it is. So include that. You also probably need to include a copy of the EPA packet, the lead safety packet. Most people are not printing out that packet and giving it to their clients in their hands, just because it's, I don't know how many pages it is. It's a lot of pages. It's just a pain in the neck to print that out and then have to staple and bind that all together. So most people are including that as a PDF in their DigiSign. So the first time they send them a DigiSign for their buyer's agency and the other business disclosures. And so that way they can prove in that DigiSign transmission history, they can prove that they sent that EPA packet. I think that's probably the best way to go. But you can include it and you can print out copies and include them in your buyer consultation copies if you want. But the reason why I'm bringing up the EPA packet or the lead safety EPA booklet is on the lead form, the lead-based paint form, there's that checkbox that says the buyer has been given a copy of this lead safety pamphlet. So if we're going to check that box on that lead form, we need to actually give them a copy of that pamphlet. So sending it via email, via DigiSign is the easiest way to do, saves you time. You can prove it later on. you don't have to print it all out and staple it all together. So anyways, you want to have a copy of this contract in there. You also should have a copy of some sort of home buyer's guide in there. This is something that you don't need to go through in detail when you're sitting there in the buyer's consultation, but this is something you can give them for them to take home and read through later. In my copy that I edited last year, I have not updated it since. You know, I've got a little bit about myself. And this is just a PowerPoint that I downloaded off the Resource Center and then edited for myself. A little bit about testimonials, about the company, offices. I need to update this one. Also need to update the thing about the company. And then I talk about, you know, our other services, partners, so Title Group, Home Warranty, USA Mortgage. Talk about the buying process. This graphic comes from a website called breakthroughbroker.com. Breakthroughbroker.com, you can create a free account and they will give you, I can't remember how many different downloads they'll allow you per month on all their different marketing templates, but you create an account, you throw your headshot and your contact info in there, and then it automatically, you know, customizes these infographics that you can then download as image files or PDFs to throw in your buyer's consultation guide. All right, going back to the buyer's process. Step number 5 is discussing the funnel process about where you're going to find all the homes that they might be interested in. So the reason why I skipped back to this thing about the funnel process as being the next step in the buyer's consultation after you've gone through the packet and the agency disclosure and the contract is in my, where am I at? In my little home buyer's guide, I have a few slides in there about where are we going to find all these houses. So this is where I can talk about, you know, having the search from the MLS. So, you know, through your website, your RU's website, if you've got them in your CRM, you can set them up automatically there, and it pulls directly from the MLS. So it has all the stuff that the MLS has. If you've not used the website's auto prospecting feature in your CRM before, definitely you need to be doing that, because that's how all of your buyers are going to be automatically fed into buy side. And all of the fields that the MLS has, our CRM provider has added all those fields into the CRM. So in the past, I know a lot of agents didn't like using the CRM auto prospecting because it didn't have all of the search criteria that Maris had. Well, that's changed. Now it has all of the search criteria that Maris has. If you don't know how to use it, please let me know. I will show you how to use it. But also talking about company withheld listings, educating them on how the Maris MLS basically status rules work. So the withheld, coming soon, active, active under contract, explaining all of that, and explaining to them how, you know, if they are a client of yours, you can share the company withheld listings. Again, and then if you've talked about, you know, how big the company is, how many offices we have, how many agents we have, there's a lot of value in our company, working with our company as a buyer, because of how many withheld listings we have at any given time. You can also talk about Zillow and other FSBO sites. A lot of your buyers, they're already going to have a search set up on Zillow or Realtor.com. Either you need to, you know, create your own search for those FSBOs on Zillow and Realtor.com or Craigslist or whatever, or you just tell them, hey, keep that search you've already got on Zillow, keep that open and make sure you've got FSBOs in there. I can work with you and help you buy FSBOs. Again, going back to sales meeting we talked about yesterday, there's probably going to be a decent number of people who are thinking, I'm just going to go FSBO because the market's crazy. I don't need an agent, right? I'm going to get over asking. I don't need to pay a commission. So a lot of those people will be wrong and will ultimately list with a realtor because they will find out how, you know, much of a, you know, pain in the ass it is selling their house by themselves. But they will go on a FSBO site to start first. And then, yeah, seeing a sign, driving by, social media, word of mouth. So talk about the funnel process. Where are you going to find all the houses? All right. So that's step number 5. And then, all right, so then scale of 1 to 10, step number 6. This is where you're going to find out, hey, how dire is their situation? Are you early on? Are you like ASAP? Need to buy this house ASAP? And then if they are not ASAP, if they are a 1, they're not a 10, ask them, okay, what are things that could change or things that could happen for you to get into an ASAP situation? Or what are things in a house that you might see that would make you pull the trigger ASAP rather than taking your time like you think you are? So, and down here on scale of 1 to 10, section 6 here at the bottom, it says take notes, power of the pad. Power of the pad refers to the kind of psychological power of like writing these things out, how impactful it can be, not only for your own memory, but for their relationship with you and their confidence in you and getting their wheels turning. You know, you writing things out and them writing things out, for some people that kind of like gets the wheel moving. So power of the pad, you know, take some notes. Some people, they kind of get activated by that. Section 7, if you got a husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, you know, partners, whatever, pieces of paper exercise. Basically, this is an exercise you can do if you think that the people are going to be on, you're not going to be on the same list of priorities for what type of house they want. So piece of paper exercise is you give one of them, you give basically both of them a piece of paper and you tell them to make a list of what they want. And then you're going to compare the lists and you're going to see like where they're differing. And that's going to help you as you are their buyer guide through the buying process. As part of that exercise, you want them to put stars next to the 3 things they can't live without. And so again, that's going to help you identify where the differences are between their absolute musts. Husband's absolute musts are these things, wife's absolute musts are these things. Can we find anything that's going to have all 6 of those things? Or are we going to have to make some sacrifices and meet in the middle somewhere? Whose must is not really a must. All right, section 8. This is, again, where you're going to build off of that pieces of paper exercise, figure out what are the musts, what are the wants, what are the likes, and then figure out why those things are musts, wants, likes. Explain the concept of the 85% home. This is going to be huge in 2021 for you guys because unless you're a millionaire and you just got money to blow and you just don't care, I don't think that anybody is going to find the absolute perfect house. In a regular year, on average, according to Ninja and the National Association of Realtors, home buyers are going to settle on average for about 85% of what their perfect home is. In 2021, I'm not going to say for sure what percentage I think it is, but I mean, I would imagine that there are going to be buyers who feel like that they got like 25%. There's probably going to be buyers, I think for the most part, they're probably going to be in that 50 to 75 range. I think there will be people that are at the 85 to 100% range, but in 2021, those people are probably going to pay an arm and a leg to be in that 85 to 100% range. So explaining the concept of the 85% perfect home, and explain the difference between that stat being an average across the country in years where there wasn't as much competition, and how that is likely to be, less than 85% in 2021 for many buyers because of all the competition. All right, and then section 9, this is all about, again, going back to the buyer's questionnaire about cash, loan, house to sell. This is where you will kind of do some education again on the market conditions currently. You need to educate them on, okay, all right, well, you may need to pay more than you want, and if you're paying more than you want, then this is how that basically monthly payment will change based upon your interest rate. If you are targeting this price point because of market conditions, we may need to search a little bit less than that because we know competition is going to drag it up. You can also talk to them about, hey, don't get too fearful of going over ask, and don't get too hurt about how unfair it is going over ask. Remind them of the strategy that many agents are employing these days. They are listing the homes at a very conservative price point for the starting list price, just knowing that the competition is going to drive it up over asking. So every listing that they see that goes over ask doesn't necessarily mean that that is proof of the market being out of control and unfair to buyers, because remember, the listing agents and the sellers may be intentionally pricing it under where it probably is fair to sell at, just knowing that that competition is going to drive that price up. So, educate them on not every home that sells way over ask is an indication that the buyers got, screwed and they paid way more than what was fair. So educate them on that. Also educate them on the importance of talking in detail with their lender. The reason why you want to talk about the importance of talking in detail with the lender is because they need to know if they are in a crunch and they need to go an extra, $5,000. How is that going to impact their down payment amount? How is that going to impact their monthly payment amount? How is that going to impact the cash that they still have on hand after closing that they may need, because they may have to waive certain things on their inspection contingencies. And so if they're waiving certain things on their inspection contingencies, they may be closing on a house that has some repairs that they still have to pay for with cash after closing. So educating them thoroughly on the importance of going into detail with all this with their lender is very important. So step 9, this is, you need to dig into the details of their financing and educate them on how all the different changes in their financing and the price point are going to impact them. All right, and then this is basically, all right, we're going through the MLS results, MLS search, talking about how it all works. This is when you're talking about how it all works, the process of seeing a home. Again, this is kind of part of the funnel process, but this is also a process where you can advise them on, okay, we're going to find things on the MLS, but hey, they may not be starting showings until the weekend. They may be calling for all offers within a 3-day time period. You should probably go drive by the house so that way you can eliminate ones where the neighborhood sucks and we don't waste our time on those. Basically, yeah, kind of educate them on, all right, they see a house, what happens then? That's a combination of the end of step 9 and the start of section 10. If we find it, what will you do? And then we're also going to talk about showing property too. You need to give this education on how the process of showing property works. So that's going to be a separate training session that I'm going to do. And I think we're going to actually do that in person. We're going to go to a house and do a property showing training session. But you want to talk about, like, all right, well, with COVID, we're going to have to talk about, they're going to want you to wear a mask and there'll be hand sanitizer, but also talk about ring lights and security systems and the cameras and audio. Don't talk in the house, wait until we leave. Yeah, so again, that's going to be a separate buyers showing type of training session that I'm gonna do in person. All right, the last section of this, I'm not gonna go through step by step, but this is actually some these are some prompts that actually you can read through about as you're going through step 1, step 2, step 3. What are things that might come up that you might get pushback on, might get questions on, and what to do and what not to do. So I'm going to include this. All right. I've talked about this consultation. just kind of the step-by-step what the process should go. Other things aside from the contract and this home buyer's guide that you should have in your packet and the buyer questionnaire, other things that I would have in my packet. And so like, all right, here's, a copy of a company folder. Other things that I would have in my packet would be some of the trifold brochures that we have in the office that you can put in your packets. So thing on select title. Again, you probably talked at some point about our business relationships, or at least you should have. Talk about select title. Wire fraud. We have these, at least in the South County office, don't know about Jeffco, we have these little postcards that you can put about the do's and don'ts of wire fraud schemes and wiring their money for closing. One Source Solutions. Like I said in sales meeting a few weeks ago, or it might have been a couple months ago at this point, One Source Solutions, they're just like, they've been really far behind on the outgoing calls to our buyer clients. So I think as agents, we need to start educating our buyers that, hey, ahead of closing, you call this number instead of, make the call yourself, because I don't think as realtors we can rely on One Source to be calling on time anymore. So talk about how convenient this offering is for our buyers. USA Mortgage has a lot of pamphlets on loan programs, also do's and don'ts of loans. All right, I'm going the wrong way here. So mortgage do's and don'ts. I think these types of pamphlets are good to put in there. Also, they've got some other pamphlets on like specialized loans. So they've got, at least in the South County office, Brett has one on VA loans. He's got one on FHA 203K loans. That's the home renovation loan. So for, if you know that your buyer is a veteran and might be interested in using a VA loan, that's probably something you want to include in their packet. If you know that they are thinking about, buying a fixer-upper, the home renovation loans might be something you want to include in your packet. Obviously, home warranty, want to include that in there as well. ASHI list. So all of your ASHI certified inspectors. Remember, rule of 3. I think you need to have a few different cards. You need to have a few different recommendations. I think this list is great. This is outdated. The St. Louis Association of Realtors, they have an updated ASHI certified inspectors list on their website. I think we have copies of this paper, or on paper, in the South County office drawers, and I think in Jefferson County we do as well. But you would want to obviously use a updated one, not one from 2015. But what I've done in my packets is I just highlight the names of the people that I've used before, and I just point them out. And if I've got copies of their business cards, or if they've got marketing material, I include that in there as well. So same thing with like your lenders. You have a few different lenders that you would recommend. With the building inspectors, you would have the same thing as well. Also, I include some things from Cardinal Surveying and Mapping on their website. They have a section on their website that's realtor resources, and they have some basically guides that you can give to your buyers for your buyer consultation packets. So this one is the pros and cons of surveys. I can, as I'm going through the contract and talking about the title and survey paragraph, we talk about what is a survey, how do they cost, what do they do, why are they important. I can use this sheet to pull out next to the contract to talk about these things, and then refer to the buyer to check this sheet out if they got more questions after the buyer's consultation meeting. They also have a trifold brochure that you can print out too. So basically, I've got stuff on lenders, I've got stuff on the title company, home warranty, One Source Solutions, survey company. We've got the, contract, buyer's agency, all the disclosures they have to have. I include this buyer questionnaire in there for me to take notes on. And if you are not, if you don't have the buyer's process nailed down pat, then use this, print this thing out from Ninja, the 10-step buyer process, and just print this out and just use as your cheat sheet. Just like the pre-listing interview questionnaire that I talked about last week. this is something you can just use as a cheat sheet. But I think the most important part of the buyer's consultation, two things: going over the contract, and number two, talking about the current market conditions. Talking about, all right, they're gonna have to be competitive. Talking about how they may need to know really in depth what their true maxes are on monthly payment, on total offer price. How much cash do they want to keep on hand because they may need to buy a house without certain items being repaired. So they need cash on hand after closing to repair those items. Another thing that I have included in here, and I don't have it in front of me, and I wish I did, but municipal occupancy inspection checklists. They may, if they are buying a home in an area where they have municipal occupancy inspections, they may need to buy that home as is in order to buy it, and they were probably gonna want to know what are the occupancy inspection items that they're going to take responsibility for if they get in that situation where they've got to buy that house as is without the seller doing the occupancy. So I should have included that here, but St. Louis County on their website, they have a checklist. There's sheets from that checklist in the South County office on the marketing desk over by the folders and the note cards and all that stuff. But for any of the other municipalities that have their own occupancy, or it's a fire district or a sewer district or something like that, a lot of those governing organizations, let's just call it, they have checklists on their website as well. So check those areas out if you know for sure that they are definitely going to be buying in an area that's like Rock Creek Sewer, or if it's out in West County and they're buying in one of those fire district areas of West County, St. Louis. Include that in there from one of those, whether it's Monarch or whatever the other fire district is out there in West County. All right, so there actually were quite a few people that were participating today. I've rambled for 35 minutes straight. Who's got questions?